It is viewers like you that make videos like this possible. Please support MickeyMousePark.com.
Our second realm is called Adventureland, the wonder world of nature's own design. From this point, you'll take an excursion trip to nature's secret world.
Before any park construction began, Walt Disney was boldly describing an explorer's boat ride down a lush river of romance. Months before the park opened, the Disneyland TV series previewed the coming cruise with footage of Disney driving a car through the dry riverbed while he touted the wonders to come. The Jungle Cruise was constructed at the same time as the park was being built. As you can see here in this time-lapse video, a lot of dirt needed to be moved. Trees needed to be rearranged. Also, some of the trees were turned upside down to show their roots so that they would look like tropical plants. It has been said that the amount of plants needed to populate the Jungle Cruise wiped out the inventory of most of the nurseries in the Orange County area.
Harper Goff, who was the art director on the Jungle Cruise, told me a wonderful story that is very different from how we would design the layout for this jungle ride. He took a stick and with the bulldoze operator, he drew what would be the left side of the water and then went about 10 feet over and drew what was the right side of the water. And then he said, all right, take all the dirt in between these two lines and pile it up and make the banks on either side of this. And that was how they carved out this ride.
So they didn't have to haul the dirt away.
They didn't have to do any drawings or anything. They just, did it right there with two guys working in the field. It's amazing. Amazing how beautiful the track layout is. I think it's one of the most convoluted trails you can imagine, and in so doing makes it seem like you've gone all over. Harper with his model of the rockwork for Schweitzer Falls, and I think having the backlot art direction, they knew how to do this, applying the metal lath on a paper base and then shooting it with what's called gunite, like you'd do a swimming pool, and then another layer of cement after that's dried is put on, and that is actually carved to get the beautiful textures. And we still do this pretty much basically the same today, and the finish is so permanent that the Matterhorn and many of the structures like Schweitzer Falls are still there 50-some years later. Now this is from our piranha pool looking back at Schweitzer Falls and back into the native encampment. There's again one of those upside down trees, and this is the beginning of the temple in the jungle. And I think you're going to see some guys doing the incredible work of aging this all down. Again, a studio technology that you wouldn't have found in the labor market. Today, a lot of people are doing this for people's backyards, but at the time, you couldn't find anything like that.
So these technicians, laborers, were they from the studio?
No, but I think they were, the foremen and so forth were brought down from the studio to train the crews. And then in the case of the painting, I believe that was all studio labor and artisans. The machine is actually bending the track. You can see the guys sliding it as it makes that curve. And there would be a limit to the tightness of the radius that boat could do. So they had to be completely accurate on that so that the tail end of the boat didn't slam into the banks of this amazingly carved out river that was two sticks drawing lines in the dirt. Now the tower didn't last very long. Again, those are the two palm trees from Dominguez Estate. This was a beautiful loading dock, and I don't know why it was taken out, other than I heard that the jungle grew up so much that the idea of watching the boats from that top deck became a moot point. We're at the studio here, and these creatures are being done again by the studio technicians who would have brought to life the giant squid the year before in the movie 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. So this is again leveraging the talents that were working in the industry at that time. One of the things that's fun, and it's in a lot of other, already shown television works, is always bringing these creatures down the Santa Ana Freeway. I always like to see them on the back of the trucks and pirates, and animals and dinosaurs, and this is kind of tricky again.
Did one get away from us?
I don't know. You notice that's what we call free animation. When the bouncing of that rhinoceros causes the ears to wiggle, we'll often call that free animation because you don't have to pay to have an actuator in there to do it. Now, all the figures that appeared at Disneyland, whether they were Native Americans or natives in the jungle here, were modeled after a famous actor of that era, Woody Strode, who was, you've probably all seen him in the movie The Ten Commandments. He was the king of Ethiopia. And Harper Goff convinced him to come down, and he was a very well-built man, and they were able to get that casting. Here are the two baby rhinos with their free animation there. It looks sort of like they're on springs, but it was a really incredibly done and yet simple technology. Now, the Jungle Cruise was hollowed out and made deeper wherever there was animation in the water. These didn't last very long.
These are so scary.
Pretty scary. Yeah. I think they may have been gone before the first year. They found out how bad the elements are on actual real fur, and the studio had to develop ways around that. Now, those are all the different control wires that, make one item come to life. This may or may not be the first time water was going in, but since it's in dirt, I think it's probably a test to see how it was going to work before they gunite the actual canal, which would have been later. So they just want to make sure it was all level. Since they use such scientific methods as drawing the track with a stick, they probably had to find out where water sought a level and then marked that and adjusted so that the boats weren't going downhill or uphill, and everything worked out. I don't know if I'd want to go down underneath that boat or not.
I certainly would not want to do it today.
No, this is a great shot because today, even if you went to Google, you wouldn't be able to get a look down into the water because it's such an overgrown, amazing, real jungle today. But at this time, you could really look at how fantastic that layout is of making absolute use of every bit of the square footage.
What's more, since it covers approximately 3 acres, the Jungle Cruise has always been one of Disneyland's largest attractions and one of the most heavily promoted. Interestingly, the Jungle Cruise had many names in a lot of the souvenir books. It was called Explorer Boat Ride, River Boat Ride, Jungle River Boat Ride, Jungle River Boat Safari, and finally, in 1959, Jungle Cruise. Once the park opened, the official souvenir books devoted more space and photos to the 9-minute Jungle Cruise than any other attraction. Disney legend Harper Goff laid out the 4-foot-deep river and drew some of the first concept sketches of the scenery that would appear along its teeming banks, taking some of his ideas from another 50s movie, the Oscar-winning The African Queen. Walt Disney enjoyed being in the middle of the construction.
On the tank stage we built for the submarine in 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, our monorail system went underwater. To properly control the action of the mechanical alligators and hippos that rise out of the water, we had to time the course and the speed of the boat. If anyone happened to look into the windows of our staff shop next door, they might well wonder what kind of a business we were really in. Here the mechanical creatures for our Adventureland jungle were being given form. The sculptors and technicians who had built our giant squid for 20,000 Leagues were creating our plastic zoo. Now they had turned their skill to smaller but no less exacting subjects. Many new plastic materials came to our aid in the creation of the jungle beast. To people our jungle world with lifelike natives, our craftsmen performed the most difficult of all molding processes, the actual duplication of the human body. A professional model of imposing physique was chosen and covered with plaster of Paris. In order to obtain a satisfactory mold and yet not endanger our subject, the plaster craftsman had to know the precise moment to pull it apart. The hero of the hour was our model. Although the plaster got warmer and warmer as it hardened, he remained under the circumstances cool and collected. Near at hand in Costa Mesa, we were working on the Explorer's launches, destined to fly through many tropic waters on our exotic Adventureland voyage. Here, as in many other problems we encountered in building Disneyland, modern plastic materials came to the rescue. For these boats are molded of fiberglass. By using these latest boat building techniques, we were able to make them sturdier and safer than with conventional materials.
And this is an interesting group of folks in here. I think Gail Storm, who is My Little Margie, is driving the boat in that scene, and Walt is right behind her, and then next up is Harper Goff, who designed the Adventureland attraction.
Now we're thinking this is probably a good few months before opening.
Yeah, it's again, the jungle was well along. It was very important to Walt to get that jungle growing and make it green by opening day. So they had to get the big plants in and then start the ground covering. You can still see a lot of dirt there.
And just in case something happened with the boat, you have the diver with you.
That's right, because no one knew how it was going to make all those curves.
Hey, that backside of water is dangerous.
Yeah. If it was a little too sharp, the back end could lift out of the track groove. And here we come to the most dangerous part of the journey, as we all know, the return to civilization in those California freeways. As the boat comes in, I think Walt takes the wheel away from Gail Storm and pilots us into the home stretch here, which is kind of neat, a great shot.
I'm excited to share a first look at some of the new GNU magic we're adding to the Jungle Cruise attraction at Disneyland Park and Magic Kingdom Park. As part of this story update, we'll get to follow a skipper and his passengers as their journey goes awry. In fact, the expedition will be up a tree after their sunken boat splits apart and chimps board the wreckage, with monkey business ensuing. Imagineers gave a sneak peek to some skippers at Magic Kingdom Park. Enjoy their reactions at the end of this transmission, and stay tuned for more details about enhancements we have in store for the future of, in my personal opinion, the greatest attraction ever.
This is just super cool to see all these changes coming, and in a way that keeps the story of the Jungle Cruise alive.
I feel very honored that the skippers are being reflected inside the attraction itself.
I'm so excited about the boat storyline, like it having halves and different show scenes that we can talk about, and so much content with the chimpanzees is so funny, and I'm already excited to hear all the jokes that come along with it.
So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and lift this elephant that you see in the background. It'll go first into the jungle. The elephant had a neck issue, so we had to remove it back in January to repair the neck.
It's kind of awesome, you know. The challenge with this job is that when I'm looking down at a place of where to put the object, my eye picks up any kind of movement. My vertical reference is kind of poor. When you have relative movement, like trees are moving around, then it just makes it a lot harder for me to focus on where it goes. I held tension on it because they had to move it a little bit, so I pick it up, move it, and then as he was saying, they were trying to measure. It was in the right spot, but I held tension on it until they said, okay, it's good.
Once we set that elephant down, the helicopter will come back, pick up the snake, python in the tree. We'll take it back over to jungle.
Where the tree and the snake was going, the brushes and the leaves were overflying where they were, so I'm trying to focus on what the ground crew is telling me to go forward, back, up, down, where the guys on the ground are moving about. So he was calling out, you're 5 feet above the water, 2 feet above the water, so at around 2 feet, they had to move it into place, then let it down, disconnect, and I'm out of there. It's just a latch hook, and I go, whew, boy, another one done.
The early souvenir books liberally mixed colorful photos with enthusiastic text that described how adventure lurks at every bend of this jungle wonder world. The Jungle Cruise incorporated themes and images from Disney's true-life adventure films of the 50s, in this case, the 75-minute documentary The African Lion. Africa, however, is not the only setting of the Jungle Cruise. In addition to the Congo and Nile scenes along the waterway, suggest other international rivers like the Amazon and the Mekong. Early plans called for real animals to populate this wilderness, but that idea was quickly scotched when designers realized that jungle wildlife usually sleep all day, and even those beasts not sleeping would probably be hiding from the noisy, intrusive boats. Dozens of realistic mechanical animals and jungle natives eventually went on display, among them majestic elephants, snakes, charging hippos, giraffes, half-submerged crocodiles, and dancing headhunters. Though their motions were simple and repetitive, these machines were considered advanced special effects in the 50s, and they gave the Jungle Cruise its unique thrills. On opening day, the Jungle Cruise was arguably Disneyland's most important attraction. From 1955 until 1962, the Jungle Cruise was the only major attraction in all of Adventureland. The Jungle Cruise has been updated at least 10 times since 1955. In 1962, the playful elephants and their bathing pool were added to the waterway, and the joke, "Is it okay to take the picture? Of course it is, they have their trunks on," was added to the script. The African Veldt, Mark Davis's Lost Safari climbing away from the rhino, and the Cambodian ruins all joined the fun by 1964. And by the 1970s, the gorillas started playing in the abandoned camp. In 1994, with the construction of Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, the river had to be rerouted. The gas-powered boats also have undergone several revisions. Early on, spotlights were added to allow night cruises. The boat's gleaming white exterior and red and white striped roof were replaced with more drab-looking paint and canvas coverings to give them a weathered look. The 27-foot boats have always held about 32 passengers. One key aspect of the jungle that separates it from other Disneyland attractions is the comical patter spoken by the wisecracking skippers. Initially, these cast members wearing safari garb and brandishing blank-loaded pistols delivered serious narration about the cruise and its dangerous inhabitants, but after a few years, that narration, with the blessing of park officials, was played for laughs. The purpose, perhaps, was to deflate the menace of the realistic spiders, jungle beasts, and savages with bursts of humor. The cruise eventually became a non-stop joke fest that begins before the guests are even in their seats. By now, most guests can recite one or two of the corny gags that have been repeated thousands of times. The Crocs looking for a handout, the rare view of the backside of water, Trader Sam, the attraction mascot, who will trade 2 shrunken heads for yours, and the most dangerous part of the trip, return to civilization. Initially, these cast members wearing safari garb and brandishing blank-loaded pistols delivered serious narration about the cruise and its dangerous inhabitants, but after a few years, that narration, with the blessing of park officials, was played for laughs. The purpose, perhaps, was to deflate the menace of the realistic spiders, jungle beasts, and savages with bursts of humor. The cruise eventually became a non-stop joke fest that begins before the guests are even in their seats. By now, most guests can recite one or two of the corny gags that have been repeated thousands of times. The Crocs looking for a handout, the rare view of the backside of water, Trader Sam, the attraction mascot, who will trade 2 shrunken heads for yours, and the most dangerous part of the trip, return to civilization. Much of this is scripted, but skippers have a long tradition of ad-libbing new material, especially on the last run of the night. Landscapers Morgan, Bill Evans, and Jack Evans made creative use of exotic greenery as they planted the dense foliage that soon filled in the area to resemble real jungles of the world. Today there are more than 700 trees and over 40 different kinds of plants representing 6 continents in the Evans jungle. Kevin Costner, Robin Williams, and Nixon's press secretary Ron Ziegler are all said to have been Jungle Cruise skippers in their youth. These might be fanciful legends to go along with entertaining stories of boats that have sunk and skippers who have swung from ropes in the trees, but they are all part of the reason that guests have always been fascinated with this beloved Disneyland classic. Sources of inspiration for the attraction include a 1955 true-life adventure, The African Lion, about a pride of lions, and the film The African Queen. Imagineer Harper Goff referenced the African Queen frequently in his ideas. Even his designs of the ride vehicles were inspired by the steamer used in the film. The project was placed on the schedule to open with the July 17, 1955 debut of Disneyland. When plans began to develop, Bill Evans, the Imagineer responsible for landscaping Disneyland, faced the daunting task of creating a convincing jungle on a limited budget. Aside from importing many actual tropical plants, he made wide use of character plants, which, while not necessarily exotic, could give the appearance of exotic context. In a particularly well-known trick, Bill Evans uprooted local orange trees and replanted them upside down, growing vines on the exposed roots.
Before we find ourselves in another part of the world, the tropical jungles of Adventureland. Primeval, exotic, and mysterious, this is a wonderland of nature's own design. And now aboard an explorer's launch, we'll leave the last outpost of civilization and push off into the upper reaches of the Amazon. Here is a perennial paradise, a tropical rainforest filled with rare plants and exotic flowers. In this mysterious maze of jungle waterways, the skipper of our boat is a seasoned traveler. He knows all the lore and legend of Adventureland. And so now we'll just watch and listen as he becomes our guide.
And now we're on a broader stream, the Mekong River of Cochin, China. Half hidden by the foliage, we get our first glimpse of a man-made structure, the ruins of an ancient Cambodian shrine, abandoned many centuries ago. On the right-hand side, watch, we're approaching them now, those charging alligators. Now watch your head, please, watch the head. Oh. And now, if you keep watching that far bank, you can say that you've had a nodding acquaintance with a giraffe. The giraffe, however, won't be able to say a thing, for this is one animal that has no vocal cords. Now, behind that pampas grass on your right, watch those two baby rhinos. You hear that? That's our lonesome lady elephant calling to her mate. And from across the river, her lord and master. Oh, man, look at the size of those ears. Well, that's the hallmark of the African elephant. Well, let's leave the happy couple and head for Schweitzer Falls, named in the honor of the famous doctor scientist. It's a little close. Now, about this part of the Nile, we usually run into something big. Yes, sir, the traffic gets pretty congested here when the hippo tribe comes up for air. Amidships. Do you feel that danger is lurking behind every log? Well, it is.
at the waterfall, all rivers meet. It takes some skillful maneuvering to navigate the narrow passage behind this cascade, but our skipper will bring us through safely. He always does. In fact, as many as 18,000 people a day take this boat trip. And when they return to civilization safe and sound, they long remember the beauty and excitement they found in the teeming tropical jungles of Adventureland.
This is an extremely rare home video, probably filmed in the early 1960s. As you can see, the Mekong Maiden is leaving the dock for a trip down the river. The boat names are Amazon Belle, Congo Queen, Ganges Gal, Hondo Hattie, Irwanda Woman, Kissimmee Kate, Magdalene Maiden, Mekong Maiden, Nile Princess, Orinco Adventurous, Swanee Lady, Yukala Una, Yangtze Lotus, Zambezi Miss. Disney controls the clarity of the water, known as turbidity, in order to obscure from guests' view the boat's guidance system and undesirable items like perches and mechanized platforms of the bathing elephants and hippos. From a current Jungle Cruise skipper, there is a Jungle Cruise script. The day any one of us actually uses it is the day the jungle dies. The only time you might hear us do a standard operating procedure or spiel is when a supervisor is on our boat.
At this point, you'll take an excursion trip to nature's secret world.
As we leave the last outpost of civilization, we always turn and take a last good look at the dock. We may never see it again. Up ahead are the ruins of a centuries-old Cambodian shrine, guarded by those beady-eyed crocodiles. We often see whole herds of playful Indian elephants here to bathe. These sacred bathing rites are seldom seen by civilized man. They're playful little squirts. Uh-oh, he's trying to give us a bath. Big hippos charging broadside. Look out! This area is often inhabited with giraffes, zebras, and packs of hungry lions. I understand there's a lost safari somewhere in this area. Headhunter country. Now around the bend comes the most dangerous part of our journey, the return to civilization.
Jungle Cruise required a C ticket in 1955, a D ticket in 1955 to 1957, an E ticket in 1959, an E ticket in 1964 to 1965, an E ticket in the 1970s. The native village was originally a dense jungle filled with tikis, masks, and several more natives. Trader Sam used to wear a mask, and a gorilla across the channel was trying to grab his merchandise. From Walt Disneyland Dictionary 1968, Jungle Cruise is enjoyed by guests aboard brightly canopied launches that carry 36 passengers each. Visitors become jungle explorers in a journey down the rivers of the world, where hippopotami and alligators churn the muddy waters. Elephants trumpet and cannibals threaten each boat with raised spears. Jungle animals moving and roaring in lifelike realism, including giraffes, lions, zebras, water buffalo, and rhinoceros. Rare plants imported from the far corners of the globe fill this jungle world with brilliant flowers and lush foliage. From Steve Birnbaum brings you the best of Disneyland 1982. The spiel delivered by the boatman on this 9-minute adventure trip is not as always quite as lively as it could be. After all, the average boatman does have to repeat the same jokes over and over again during his working day. But every once in a while, when your white hunter turns out to be one of the handful of natural comics who do the job, the presentation can be really funny. Be sure to look for the hefty Canary Island date palm to the right as you approach the loading dock in the queue area, one of the few trees that Walt found on the property when it first came into his hands. It was planted in 1896 and had acquired so much sentimental value to the family that owned the land that they requested that it be preserved. Transplanted from its former location, which would have been just about in the center of the parking lot's section C, it stands here today. Trivia buffs should note that Bob Matty, who helped develop the creatures, also worked on the man-eating plants of many Tarzan movies, the giant squid from 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, and the mechanical shark in Jaws. The large-leaf upright tree in the Cambodian ruins section of the attraction is a Ficus religiosa, an example of the tree under which the Buddhists received enlightenment in India many centuries ago. April 7th, 2017. Dwayne Johnson's turning Jungle Cruise into a movie. The movie has been in pre-production since 2015. The film will start production in spring 2018. Release date will be 2020. Jungle Cruise movie in theaters on July 30th, 2021.
Welcome aboard, folks. I'm Trader Dan, your skipper and guide. In this tropical rainforest, those rare orchids grow without soil. Every tree has a corsage. Butterflies out here are gigantic. Look at that wingspan. Now we're on the mysterious Mekong River of Asia. Over there, the ruins of an ancient Cambodian shrine. All that remains is the golden Buddha and a fortune in jewels. That cobra is caretaker now. Watch out for that big python. Everything is out to meet our boat today. Steady, folks. Watch those ripples up ahead. Here they come. Quick, pull in your hands. I wonder what those vultures are waiting for. There's your answer. No one is invited to this family's dinner. Up ahead is a friendlier couple. Now you can tell the folks back home that you've had a nodding acquaintance with Mr. and Mrs. Giraffe. We're in big game country, so look sharp, everyone. Quick, over there. That rhino is 2 tons of dynamite. Hope he doesn't charge our boat. Take it easy, big boy. We're just passing by. Phew, made it. Another tusker. Must be his mate. And here's double trouble. Water buffalo. There's a more refreshing sight. Schweitzer Falls. These falls were named after the famous Dr. Schweitzer, who, as you know, watch it, the stern's going under. Boy, that was close. Last week we had to bail out the boat. There's something up ahead. Hippopotami. The traffic is terrific along here. It's too late to turn back now. I sure hope one of these big bruisers doesn't come up under our boat. Watch it on the right, a charging hippo. Hang on, everybody, here he comes. If he hits us, we're sunk. Uh-oh, a gorilla. Let's get out of here. Another one. We're surrounded. we'd better go behind the falls this time. It's going to be close. Hope you don't mind a few drops of water. And now comes the most dangerous part of our trip. The return to civilization and the crowded freeways. Come back again, folks. You're the bravest party I've ever had.
Hi everybody, welcome to the set of Jungle Cruise. I'm so excited to welcome you to this incredible movie. As you can see, we have a beautiful path lit behind us, usually to show people where
you have the beautiful path, and then you have the beautiful co-star. Mwah.
No, I think this was just,
I'm here.
No, this was just supposed to be my
You
thing.
were telling me, hey, let's be like Humphrey Bogart and Kathleen Hepburn.
Kathleen, or is it Catherine
It's,
Hepburn?
well, yes.
Like, do your research, you know what I mean? It's
Michael Douglas, Kathleen Turner.
That's it, that's right.
Fred Astaire, Ginger Rogers.
No, they were never in the jungle.
So.
It's a love story, guys.
It is a love story, yes. Welcome to Jungle Cruise.
It's going to be great.
The adventure of a lifetime. That was my line. Wait, I'm sorry. Wait, come back. 1 second. Come on back. There you go. Ah, she's the best.
We're just kidding.
We're kidding.
Welcome to the adventure of a lifetime.
No.
No, I didn't.
So what are you doing out here?
There is a legend in the jungles of the Amazon of a tree that heals all. It could change the world, but if it gets into the wrong hands, it could awaken a great evil. I believe that the legend is real.
Which it's not.
And I'm going to find it.
Which you won't.
And when I do, just imagine the lives that could be saved.
I've been looking for this tree longer than anybody. I've tracked the legend to every village, every island. Nothing. You're searching for something that can't be found.
But you've never had the key.
Let's do something that's safe. Let's go see some elephants.
There are no elephants in the Amazon, and I don't even like elephants.
Lady, everybody likes elephants. Know this about the jungle. Everything that you see wants to kill you, and can. Careful. They can smell fear.
I am not afraid. Oh my gosh.
Who brings a submarine to the Amazon?
Feuer!
Good night. I got you.
Frank, get it.
Hold on.
Come on.
I got it.
Frank.
I don't got it.
No. For goodness sake, just leave me alone. That was a disaster.
Didn't go the way I planned.
Let's talk a little bit about the history of the world-famous Jungle Cruise. It was an opening day attraction. It was something that Walt even really wanted to make happen. So, Mike, tell us a little bit about that history.
Well, like you said, Justin, this was an opening day attraction. Came with the park. The landscape of the Walt Disney Company at the time was, a little different. It wasn't the big company that it is, but Walt did have a very successful studio, and he was doing a series that we called the True Life Adventure series. I don't know if anyone's familiar with that documentary series. A fun exploration of the natural world. And so when his park was being developed, when we were first looking at Disneyland, this was an opportunity to kind of showcase that spirit. And so Walt thought it would be really great to have this cruise through the jungle rivers of the world where you had a chance to see these animals in state and be like, oh, you see the things you just wouldn't see in your home world, right? It'd be a very different experience. So the initial thought was, hey, we can have live animals and we'll just go right past it. It'd be like a bit of a zoo-like experience. Didn't really work out. As it turns out, animals like to sleep during the day when most of the guests would be here. So, kind of famously, it turned out that wasn't going to work out. So we instead found a different way to showcase those animal stories, and we came up with the Jungle Cruise that you kind of know today.
I was just going to say the natural part of it is just so amazing. Even today, at the anniversary being tomorrow, just the beauty of it is still amazing.
It's beautiful
and natural.
It is, and that didn't come out of, this was an orange grove. So that didn't just grow here.
No, it's a jungle.
It's a jungle, yes, but
it's always been
67 years ago, it looked a little different. So, Brian, can you tell us a little more about the roots of the jungle?
I would be happy to. So I think when you think about the jungle, you have to go back to the creator of the jungle, and you have to look at Bill Evans. He was basically the founding father of landscape architecture for Imagineering. And the guy just had some amazing techniques that we still obviously practice on a day-to-day basis on all of our projects. And I think the big thing that he did was he pushed everyone to find authentic plants from these regions, from these tropical rivers. And, he found huge hero trees that he salvaged from different parts of the park, from residences, and also from areas where they were building new freeways back in the day. So that really created that upper canopy and really allowed it to function like a real jungle. And I think those are just a few things that he did, and obviously what he's created is amazing, and I think he would really love to see it.
Well, and he really had such a passion for doing it, too. It wasn't just like, oh, this is going to be another job. This was something that was important to him, and it shows. I mean, what a legacy to have is this incredible oasis of a jungle, in the middle of a very urban setting.
It definitely has its own ecosystem, as we all know, having walked through there and witnessed during this rehab some amazing things, natural and unnatural.
So, you talked a little bit about he's getting these plants from all over the place. Are there any plants that you would point out that have a really interesting history?
Yes, I would say, and actually I think you can see a couple of them from here. Right behind the Kiss Me Kate, you can see it's a philodendron Evansi, which basically Bill Evans himself created. It's a hybrid of two different philodendrons. And it was very popular back in the day. It's not so much anymore. It's very rare, hard to find. And so we were seeking that out for this project, and you'll see them in a couple of different scenes. And I think that's just a little nod for us to Bill, and got to celebrate his work, obviously.
And I just think that's an important point, is like our legacy is so important to us here, and the ground that they have placed for us is sacred in a way, and we want to make sure we're fulfilling that legacy as we move forward. So,
Brian, what would you guess is the oldest plant in the jungle here?
I would have to say it's probably the Dominguez palm, and it was planted, I believe, in 1896. There was 3 generations of the family that enjoyed that palm. One of the members was actually married beneath the palm, and when Walt bought the land, the terms of it was that palm had to be preserved and had to be reused. So we transplanted it to where it still sits now, just in between Indiana Jones and the boathouse.
And we're constantly evolving the footprint of Adventureland and Disneyland in general. So we do take care to preserve that legacy too. It's something that you have to work around. But it's not like a chore to do so. It's really a joy to be able to recognize and appreciate and make sure that kind of stuff stays, the same for everybody.
So, talking about evolving the park, that really began with Walt. I mean, he was standing outside the Jungle Cruise, heard somebody say, I've already been on that ride, and decided it was time to start putting in new exciting things. And he evolved the Jungle Cruise in a lot of different attractions over the years. Tell us a little bit about that and how that sort of inspired this attraction.
Well, it was never Walt's intention for Disneyland to be a place that you could walk into blindfolded and, recite along with everybody else. The joy or the adventure or the experience of your first time coming to Disneyland makes that impression of discovery, right? You're like, what a wonderful thing to learn about and to know. And you want to get that experience every time. That doesn't mean you get the same experience, but you want that to feel like it's the same experience. And that's something we do with Walt Disney Imagineering is we try to make sure that the feeling you get this time when you came to Disneyland is the feeling you got that first time. It creates a generational spirit. You want the same thing for your kid that you felt. And so if you can leave the park, that day and say, that's just exactly the way I remember it, we know it's not exactly how you remember it because we know we've changed. But if you can say that, then we really have done our job, because that's what we want to do is have that transfer, that family unit feeling. It's like a transfer of goodwill, and it's the Disneyland spirit. It's really great. So yes, that applies to the Jungle Cruise as well. And most famously, Mark Davis, legendary animator, one of the 9 old men, Walt's 9 old men, took a pass at enhancing or revisiting some of the more humorous strokes in the Jungle Cruise. So some of the just beautifully rendered sight gags, because he was a great gag man. Some of the things you see, like on the rhino pole, it was to interject a bit of humor. Prior to that, when the Jungle Cruise first opened as an attraction, it was really played straight. The skippers were there to give you the perspective of a naturalist giving a tour of the jungle, and it changed. Obviously, it needed to change, and really the spirit of what we know of as the Jungle Cruise now came about because of that. A lot more humor, a lot more fun. And it's what makes the Jungle Cruise the Jungle Cruise.
So speaking of Mark Davis, are there any tributes to him in the new enhancements? Perhaps things that he designed that didn't make it into the attraction until now?
Well, we do have one sight gag. So around the time that he was developing some of the more iconic gags that are in there, there was the story that he was developing about a carnivorous plant that popped up in the jungle somewhere, and so it didn't get developed fully enough to really become part of the Jungle Cruise way back when. So as we are exploring this new moment where we're introducing a number of new characters that you'll see on the rhino pole, one of those characters is a botanist. So he's in the jungle looking for new, rare, and exotic examples, and one of those is a man-eating plant that is featured relatively prominently in a number of scenes that hopefully you guys are going to see when you do your ride-through.
I'm excited. So, Michelle, you bring together a project like this and work with all these different teams, and you have somebody like Chris Beatty who's working to drive a vision on 2 coasts for this. How do you bring that to life here in the park?
That's a great question.
How does it work? It's
controlled chaos, and I think that's how we work best. When the creative vision is established, it's what we do at Walt Disney Imagineering here in Anaheim. We're a small but mighty force that, to give you a perspective, this is our home, away from home. We're a group of Imagineers that sustain this park in a day in and day out basis. So, Mike jokes, but the Buzz Lightyear flooring, while we're working on this, we're all over the resort, maintaining the sustainability and working with our partners to try to keep everything show ready for you all.
So on that note, how do you even tackle building a brand new show scene in a ride that's this complex with a river running through it, a living ecosystem around it? How do you even begin?
You want to feel? Well, let me just start by saying it's a little different, and Brian will have a lot to say about this, being a landscape architect. But when we conceive about how we're going to tell a little bit of story in let's take a dark attraction or any of our showbox attractions, you have a lot more control, right? Think of the Omnimover on the Haunted Mansion, where you're sitting in a chair, and we can kind of direct which way you're going to be looking. It's just a lot more control. We can control the lighting because you're in an enclosed environment. We can manipulate you to see what we want you to see. This is the world out here. This is we don't have a roof. We got to hide those lights in really clever ways because we don't have a lighting truss up above that we can, do these things. So we got to come up with some real interesting notions. So once we kind of have the early concept of what we want those visuals to be, it's kind of figuring out how that's going to work. The second, kind of challenge, besides being outside and not being able to control your environment, is also that this is an established attraction. So we already have the route that you're going to take. We kind of know which way the boat's going to be facing. And so whatever image we want to put, we got to figure out where that's actually going to fit and when you're going to be approaching that sight line. And I think, Brian, you can kind of talk about how that happens.
Yeah. So I think for landscape, having all these existing trees is amazing because it already has the scene partially set. So what we need to do is work around those existing routes, right? Fill in holes, block views that we don't want to see, and then layer in the new show. And, we still want every scene to be unique, but then you also have to have a delicate balance of having it blend with the existing jungle because you don't want it to pop out that much, but you do want to have unique scenes and unique plants that highlight in different areas.
You did drive all over Southern California to get every tropical plant possibly available, so.
We did that, and we actually had some imported as well from Hawaii. So there's some very unique plants that you guys will see on the ride.
And you even had to handle carnivorous ones. So
Carnivorous ones.
Ouch, yes.
Well, and there's a lot of water in this river, and we did drain it for the down, which makes a different situation when you're trying to move big pieces in and out, because then you have to raise them up a little more to get in there. So invariably, if you're trying to do any of these kind of installations when there's water in the river, you just kind of think, man, if only we could just walk this down the river and place it, and if we didn't have to deal with trying to float it in. But then once you get rid of all the water, you find out you have these same problems trying to get it, in a dry situation. And you're just like, man, if only there was some water in the flume right now, we could just float this down and get it in place. You can never be right.
Well, the best part was maybe we should be driving our own boats. And it was, so there's.
In which case, no, that's something nobody wants.
Yeah.
And I would say, I don't know how many times I jumped on and off those boats, but that's really the only way you can see it from the guest perspective. You can arrange it by land, but you have no idea what's visible. So I think when the water is in, it does make it a little bit more laborious, but ultimately it's beautiful.
So any skipper will tell you that this wet attraction is nothing without its dry humor. How did you strive to keep that intact with this attraction and really even make it funnier?
Well, so along with the new scenes you're going to see and the new overdressing, the new planting, all the really fun stuff, there are new beats for the skippers to be involved with. Of course, that's a huge feature of the attraction is your interaction with the skippers. It's super important, and so they will be saying things you've never heard before. They've got a lot of great options and good choices because they're going to be reacting to the same environment that you see. Leave him alone.
Yes. We do have skipper humor too.
Yes. It's contagious, It's like the longer you work on a project like this, and especially when the skippers start coming in, then all of a sudden everyone's a skipper.
Yes.
Almost.
So believe it or not, the next question is for Brian. At this point, the Jungle Cruise, as we said, is a living, breathing attraction. How do you enhance and maintain that while keeping it looking like a real natural jungle?
You kind of have to just start with one scene and kind of build off of that and go piece by piece. Obviously, you want to keep everything that's foundational, but I think the important thing is to distinguish the scenes like they were originally.
Like we rely upon our horticulture team to also guide us. I mean, they're responsible for maintaining this on a day in and day out basis, and we definitely look to them to help guide us to what things work, what doesn't, and
oh, definitely. And I think they do an amazing job maintaining it. And like Michelle's saying, we work hand in hand with them, and we wouldn't get it done otherwise because it's just, it's only 2.5 acres, but there's a lot of plants and there's a lot of different angles, right, that we need to screen or highlight. It just takes a lot of time and patience and, perseverance to get it done.
And we as Imagineers, we get to come up here and share this with you on stage, and it's all well and good, but it's not just us, and it's not even close to just being us. The park offers such good support for these efforts, not just horticulture, but the park decorating teams, scientific systems,
sign shop, paint shops,
all hands on deck. I mean, we get such good service with our partners here at the resort. And then they own it, right? Once we're done with this project, then it's theirs to maintain on a daily basis.
So Michelle, you worked with Disney's Animal Kingdom Animal Sciences teams a little bit to learn about natural behaviors of animals, and that actually helped enhance the story. Tell us about that.
As you know, this is a bi-coastal effort with Florida. The location of Animal Kingdom obviously came into play there. And I don't know if you know or saw the rendering that we initially released that had the chimps on the boat and the one holding the parasol and he had glasses on and was looking like he was reading a map.
Super charming. Really cute picture.
Very cute. But, after working with the Animal Kingdom team and Dr. Mark Penning over there, he was like, chimps wouldn't really act that way. They're not that civilized. And And so that was a really good point. And so what you're going to see out here is our relationship with Animal Kingdom and the advice they gave us on creating an authentic environment. You know, we talked about authenticity and what Bill's done and what Harper Goff did and trying to create an authentic ride. And that's what we did today.
And that's really Jungle Cruise at its best, because to go back to the beginning of this talk, Walt really wanted this to be this authentic, true life adventure experience. You're going to see something from out in the natural world that you wouldn't see at home. And that layered on top of a skipper's wry observation on what's going on there, or finding the humor in that kind of blend between the sincere and the schmaltzy, is kind of the core of the Jungle Cruise humor.
And I think you'll hear that in the audio too.
Yeah.
Is you'll go past a scene where there's chimps that are very inquisitive and wondering about what's happening around them, and then you'll come to the finale here, and you'll see that it's been taken over, and the audio and the visual effects are just stunning. So
speaking of those chimps, they're holding some maps. Tell us about the significance of the maps on those boats.
So, as part of the greater project, we actually reworked some of the traditional maps of the Jungle Cruise that you'll see. They were a little dated in their depictions of what we want our Jungle Cruise story to be. And so I had the opportunity to create a new map that you'll see at the entrance of the boathouse for our attraction. We don't have the exact same footprint or the same story beats as the Florida team, so they made a similar map for their project. So that was Greg Pro over in Imagineering, and Leilani Flores from the Florida team worked and made a map to go along with it. So, of course, we've got our mischievous chimps, and one of which is navigating for the team. And so they have a rather damaged version of our map in their boat, which explains a lot. And of course, then we have their map in our boat. So while our boat houses feature the proper cartography of the respected jungles, the chimps that got a hold of it, they're using the wrong maps. So, like chimps do, as our wildlife expert would have told us.
our map is beautiful, I must say.
So before we run out of time, I do want to ask, what is your favorite Easter egg in the new attraction for each of you? So
the chocolate one.
The chocolate one. Perfect. So on that note, Brian, you go first.
Mike actually kind of touched on it. I think, plants being my thing, I'd have to say it's some of the man-eating plants that you'll see in the boathouse, and then you'll see them again in the safari scene, and then you might see some more possibly being consumed by one of the chimps.
Honestly, for me, it's less about the Easter eggs than just the entire ride is just phenomenal. And you'll experience it from the Cambodian ruins all the way through to the finale. It's stupendous.
And I not that I don't love Easter eggs, but I don't even consider most of what we've done to be of Easter egg material. It's just pre-story. You don't need to know all this stuff that we've sprinkled in there. But we really did take a lot of care and grooming to make sure that these new touches that we've added, particularly in the boathouse, but throughout, you look at the props throughout the attraction that have come in, it's nothing that's a non sequitur to the story. Everything enhances and increases the deep dive enjoyment you can have of the Jungle Cruise new characters that we're having. So it's all involved. And again, if you get a chance to see it, if you notice it, it doesn't contradict what we're doing anywhere else. And again, it enhances it. So it's not so much about it being an Easter egg, but it's just a lot of visual storytelling. And it's about making good connections.
Specs: capacity 2,278 per hour, capacity per boat 34, cycle time 10 minutes 48 seconds, load time 40 seconds, unload time 30 seconds, trip time 9 minutes, dispatch interval 54 seconds, trips per hour 67, distance traveled 1,820 feet, speed 2.2 miles per hour. Yes, the Jungle Cruise boats do run on a rail. Sometimes the boats get derailed and everyone just has to sit there until a rescue boat comes to put the boat back on the rail. Here are a couple of boats sitting backstage. When they used to use the guns to shoot the hippos, they used blanks. Here is a shot of the blanks they used. Engineers working on the crocodiles and elephants. Weighing a Jungle Cruise boat. Walt Disney petting an elephant backstage. Engineer taking a break sitting on an alligator. Employee uses a saw to shape an elephant figure out of fiberglass.
The revving goes like in half.
Yeah, but if you can move.
Yeah.
Back up a little.
I thought you were supposed to stop if you have a check engine. Or a service engine.
Alright, we'll tell you anyways.
Alright, ready? Here we go. I'll just power it down. Yeah, because we don't want this thing to explode. Yeah, see, it says service engine on.
That's fine.
Alright, onward! Alrighty guys, we're going to go ahead and continue our journey. Ready? You're going to feel a slight tug. Ready? Watch out. Oh, sorry. With that being said, no worries guys, here we go. We're now under someone else's power. Now we're saving gas. With that being said, ladies.
A quick video of the drained river. And their bathing pool were added to the waterway, and uh-oh.